What's up, everybody? Welcome to the By the Hood podcast or webcast. I don't know how you're consuming this content, but either way, we appreciate having you here. I'm your host as usual. My name is Jimmy, and I'm in the building. I got my partner Corey here. Corey, what's up, good brother?
What's going on, Jim?
Hey, man, listen, man, I'm excited, man. We got a very special guest in the building. We got an entrepreneur, and not only just an entrepreneur, he's an investor. He's doing amazing things in the Philadelphia market in terms of real estate, but I love following his journey on his Instagram page. He's one of the most entertaining guys on Instagram. And I'll tell you this, one of the things I like about your page, right? So there's a lot of people who talk real estate, but one thing that you do is you share the mistakes you make. And
oh, yeah, for sure. I got to share those.
Yeah, that's difficult to do. I know how difficult. I try to do the same, so that's why I really appreciate your transparency in saying that, because that's something that a lot of people aren't willing to do. Without further ado, we have our brother Malik Carter on. His IG is a real estate coach Carter. But man, listen. First of all, thank you for giving us your time and coming to talk to our people, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I really don't do a bunch of these, but I like what you put out, like your content. I'm about to go ahead and get on here.
No doubt. So, let's just start from the very beginning. Like, are you from Philadelphia? What part of the city are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Philly. They used to call it the bottom. Now the lines kind of moved. So I'm from 33rd and Hamilton, right? So growing up, my block was dilapidated. Then so now it's Powell Village, where I'm from. Back then it was the bottom. Now it was Powell Village.
They got a cute name now, right?
Yeah. No, so it was always Powell Village on the south side of Hamilton, but now it went to all the way to Spring Garden. Is now in Powell. So yeah, I'm from Powell Village, not the bottom, not Mantua.
Okay, did you go to school out there? Like, where'd you go to high school at?
No, I went to engineering science.
Oh, dope. I know a lot of people there. Like we both central guys, but I know a ton of ENS people. But that's interesting. That's interesting that you say that, right? So our previous episode we had Isha on, and she was talking about how she's from South Philly and her neighborhood was called Saigon, but now they got a cute nickname too. So it's interesting to see both you guys' journey. Like, I wonder, does that have anything to do with where you are now, seeing the neighborhood change like that? Do you think it has anything to do with your relationship to real estate now?
So 100%, right? I like to see the progress. And so like, that's why when I personally buy, like, I buy, like you buy the hood, but I try to see what's not necessarily going to be the hood, and try to buy there and wait. Like, I'm a long-term investor. I'm buying, I get cash flow now, but I'll take, equity later. I make enough money to live on. Like, I really don't spend a lot of money. And so I'm really, planning for the next generation or my next move, later on.
Okay.
So honestly, to be real, I really got everything I really want, everything. I don't need anything else. I take every vacation I want to take. My kids in private school, I got a 2011 Camry, but I'm not a car dude. I don't buy clothes. I don't buy jewelry. I eat good. I take trips. I buy houses. That's it.
I don't do much. I heard that. Well, let me ask you a question though. How did you actually get into real estate? So, what was your foray into real estate? So, you said you went to ENS. After ENS,
Right.
like, did you go to school, or college after that, or what was your foray? How did that happen?
So I did go to college. I went to North Carolina Central University in Durham. Bull City.
Okay.
North Carolina. That's where I was to college. But my dad was a contractor, right, coming up, and so my introduction was there. My dad owned houses, even back then. Actually, without, veering too far off, right? Like, I can track my father's side history to slavery, right? My dad's side were entrepreneurs all the way through slavery. Like, right at the end of slavery, and when it was over, I think great grandfather like made enough money during that time period, and so he stayed in the South in Virginia, in Gloucester, Virginia, at a place called Carter's Creek. You can look up on the map, like, we still got 40 acres there. Like, it's still our family right now. We got that from like the slavery. Right? He got that out of slavery, right? So it's a quick story. Like, so as it goes, he basically, what he was doing, he was a slave, right? But what he would do, is he would navigate the York River. He knew the York River very well, right? So he would navigate the Confederate soldiers up and down the river, like kind of like a double agent type of deal, like take them up and messages back, so on and so forth. And so, but they still paid him for that. And they appreciated what he did because he was able to navigate it at nighttime and nobody else was able to do it. And so when slavery was over, like the master died, the wife, gave him, we have actually the deed, but we have 40 acres and all the animals he got, everything. It's all waterfront, still there, right? You can Google Carter's Creek and see the 40 acres that he got.
Yo,
right?
That's an amazing story.
And so he made enough money doing that he was, when his brothers, when they ran north, so after the Civil War, they came back south, and he made enough money. He bought all three of them oyster boats, and so they farmed oysters, and that was their career. And then we still have the farm down there, Shelley. If you Google Zion Poplars Baptist Church, right across the street is Yellow House, 7 acres. Like that's where they live. Like we still have that too. That's still in Virginia, right? Wow. And so we've owned property. We were really landlords since then. Every generation, everybody had.
That's in your blood.
Yeah,
it's there. But it wasn't my path though. I wasn't trying to be a landlord. But it did come natural. I did, see my dad do it, and my grandfather did it. My grandfather's brother, uncle, everybody did it. My uncle in New York, he was the most successful because he bought 3 brownstones on 158th and Riverside, and in Manhattan. Now they're valued at over $1 million a piece, and still he died, but those are still like in the family in a way, right? So, but he was the most successful at it just because he went to New York. When they came to Philly, he went to New York and was buying Manhattan, and so that's where just proximity. But anyways, that's my family story.
That's crazy. Go ahead, Corey.
Let me ask this question: how did y'all? Because a lot of Black folks we know lose their property and their stuff through generations. Mm-hmm. How did your family manage to maintain and hold on to all that property through all these 150, 200 years?
So I could really only speak to my grandfather, right? I just know that they still used the house up until maybe 7 years ago. Like we would have family reunions down in Virginia at the house, so they would frequent it. Even my dad, he moved from Philly, moved into the house, for maybe like almost a year. He lived there in that house, right? And so we paid taxes. We would go down, we would see it, and so we sharecrop. So the 40 acres we sharecrop on it, right? We got a farmer. I'm sure it probably sound good, but I'm sure he's raping us. My grandpa, they on 1940s terms, and so we got a sharecropper now. It's actually a white dude, and he rotates between soy and tobacco and whatever else, and he just pays us a percentage of his crop every year, and that pays the taxes, and we just keep taxes paid, and that's really it for the 40 acres. For the house, it really hasn't been active in about 3 years, and honestly I think my family, I'm probably the only one that cares about it. Like as the generations got younger, nobody want to go to the country. I'm the only person that really want to go down there.
I was going to ask you, and I guess you just answered that question. I was going to say, is this a story that you were brought up knowing, or is something that you went back and looked up your history, or it's always been passed down?
No, we it's documented. So one of my cousin, Fred, he still lives in Virginia, and he has like all the records. Like he has all the documentation, all the paperwork. He has everything, at his house.
That's important. When you documentation and paperwork, like. Because my thing is a lot of that, again, falling through the cracks. And so your family did a very good job of not allowing that to fall through the cracks. And that's something that anybody who watched this video, I want them to take heed of as far as generational wealth. Your family not allowing that to fall through the cracks has allowed y'all to do the things that y'all been able to do.
That's a powerful story. I didn't even know that story. That's powerful that you could trace it back.
It's slavery. But on my mom's side, though, my mom was raised in Danville, Virginia, and like the farm that she was raised on, we still have that. That was 200 acres. They sold the trees, sold the 100 acres. And so we still got like 105 acres left in Danville. he just pay taxes. We don't do anything on that. It's just that's just there, you know. But I don't know who they got it from. I just know that's where my mom was raised, and she owns a part of that. You know, they just got subdivided or whatnot.
Y'all really about that buying whole life.
Yeah, the real buying hundreds of years buying.
Yeah, but you know what though? That's also like it's so many gems within that story in terms of this is what you saw, right? So you saw this. So even though you said this wasn't originally your path, and if you don't mind me asking, what did you think you were going to do? Like, so when you said this wasn't your original path, you ended up in the real estate game. What were you trying to do?
So, I mean, just like what every other young black man who was unathletic was trying to do.
Record label?
I was music, man. Music. I was a music dude. You know, I was always the type that if I wanted to do something, I would figure it out. I didn't even really need to ask permission, right? So what I did. Wait, are you still here?
Yeah, we can hear you. We hear you.
Oh, hold on, my drink. Here we go. I lost you for a quick second. So I went to, the movie The Show.
Yeah.
So that was at 33rd Street, the Armory. So I got tickets, walked down to the concert when it was there, and so I'm standing by the front of the sound man, and they're like, "Yo, sound man, turn it up." And I turned around like, "Sound man, he got working the keys." I'm like, "Yo, that's dope. I want to be him when I grow up." Right. Right. And then what I did the very next day, I started calling around like recording studios trying to learn how to be the sound man. Like I didn't know it was a difference between a recording engineer and a show engineer. But I'm at the third story recording. It's at 51st and Walnut. And just so happened that DJ Miz worked there in the back. And so he took me in as an intern. So from my junior year in high school, I worked with Miz. He showed me how to work the boards. In my senior year, I started getting paid. I was getting paid $20 an hour. I'm 17, getting $20 an hour, in 95.
You was getting it.
Like I'm in it for 4 hours, 5 hours, and I'm just recording music. It was, I loved it. I loved that. And then I wasn't even going to go to college. I wasn't going to go to college, but I wasn't going to go down south until Miz was like, listen, man, there's studios down there too. Don't get stuck in Philly because it is. You can go down there and work. You got experience.
Too.
Right. But he was wrong. Like, listen, I get to North Carolina at this time. This is different. It's 96. It was a studio. In Durham were no studios. The only recording studio, there was one in Chapel Hill and there was one in Raleigh. Both owned by Southern white dudes. I'm like, I'm trying to get in for free. I'm usually getting paid $20 an hour. I'm like, listen, let me eat for free. They're like, nah, we don't want you for free. We don't even need your help.
Wow.
And I couldn't get in, right? And so, so that was kind of like that was into my engineering. I got a job on the radio, right? But then, I started to do music distribution. I met my man Dame. We started, wholesaling mixtapes. That did very well. Made a lot of money doing that. We blew a lot of money. I'm talking about we made hundreds of thousands of dollars while we were still like sophomore in college, and we just ran through it, just everything. And then that just stopped abruptly. Like it just, all of a sudden, I don't know if you're familiar with the RIAA, right? But the RIAA was formed. And it was just formed, and people that we knew in the industry were going to jail. Like I'm not going to jail over no mixtapes. That's out of the question. Right? Yeah. And like it was this the first dude that was selling music online, this cat named Mark. He's in Florida. Had called the Hip Hop Site. Mm-hmm. First one selling mixtapes online. And when the feds, RIA, they took him down federal. They took everything he had, and after he got through his trial, they did let him keep one house. All his cars, all his money was done. And so I didn't have any, and that was it. And right. And so from there, I transitioned to the parties. Parties did well, made a lot of money in that for 2.5 years. I left North Carolina, came to Philly. I thought I was going to do well in parties here, and I flopped. And then I had to figure it out, man. I had to do something different. And so, I got a job at that point.
Yo, it's crazy because it was even some gems in what you said there, right? But I know that feeling. Back in the day, I had a online casino, right? This was
Okay.
years ago. It was uptowngambler.com. And I was making money hand over fist on football season. Like it would slow down when it wasn't football season. This is when Bush was in office. It would slow down when it wasn't football season, but during football season, I was making several grand every Sunday. And Bush with the stroke of a pen had changed the law, and it was gone. It was just literally gone. Because back in the day, you couldn't do that. It was illegal to do it, but they found a loophole where if you so I didn't technically own the casino. It was on it was out of the country.
Server.
Yeah, right.
But
I own a domain, and I would push traffic there. But they would like make the thing look like your domain. So it's kind of like you partner with someone, and people were doing that. And at the time, a bunch of white kids in college were losing all their money gambling. So
I can see.
Bush changed it like with the stroke of a pen. In one night, it was the whole joint was like a wrap. So
the same thing happened to me because I was online gambling. I was playing poker online at that time.
Okay.
That's the exact. So when that same stroke of the pen did me into.
He ended the whole thing. But the gem that was in what you said is, and we talk all the time about one of the problems that a lot of people have when trying to save, invest, get into real estate is the lack of taking action. So when you told that story, you said, "Hey, I saw this sound man. I want to be like him." The very next day, you hit the phone. So you had the hustle in you already, though, because a lot of people, that's their thing, is taking that step to do something, right?
Right.
A lot of times, like just by taking action, you'll fall into whatever it may be. But it's the fact
right, you figure out. Action. A lot of people don't take action, and honestly, that's really the reason why I used to spend like a lot of time kind of like mentoring people. People will call me up out of the blue. I want to be in real estate. How can you help me? I listen to their story. I spent hours like giving like everything, and they would never take action. Matter of fact, there's one girl in particular. She's the reason why I stopped. Is we had this whole conversation about her getting into real estate and how she didn't have any money. She was working on it, had this credit, and then I'm like, all right. Then like 2 days later, she said she posted on social media, "I'm stressed out. I had to take a quick flight to Jamaica." I'm like, okay, so you got the money for the Jamaica, but you don't have money. So after that, I was like, well, you got to be serious. That's why actually me and Justin in JS Capital, we did a workshop a few months ago, right? And the reason why I did it wasn't to make, I did charge for it, but it wasn't to make money. We only charged like $100 to $200, like $100 early bird. And we did it at that price point because it's low enough that people can afford to come, but it's high enough to weed the bullshitters out. Then, and so $100, and that way I get all out at one time. I could get everybody that been asking me questions. This is your opportunity. You can show up. You can buy the $50. You can buy the live stream, whatever it is. And then what happened is people stop getting my DM. It'd be new people now, but the old people who had opportunity to pay, they didn't hit me no more because they didn't pay. So then they don't. So I clear them out of there.
Yeah.
You know. So right now, you know, I try to give access. I try to give the information. I posted the other day, like it's so much information / misinformation online. You know, you just got to know where to get it from. You know, and then another thing with these workshops that people are going to in general is, even with me, is you only get in one side, right? You getting how that person invests, what works for that person. It may not necessarily work for you, right? And so. And like me, like I'm a conservative investor because I told you, I mean, I lost everything with the mixtapes. I lost everything with the doing the parties. Like I've been broke twice already. Like I'm not going broke again. So, and not only that, I had a mortgage company, right? I was doing pretty good with the mortgage. At the time, I felt like I was doing great. But looking back, I was just doing well, right? And then, you know, over the fax machine, you know, I see New Century closed down. That was the beginning of the recession. I went 8 months of making $0, and I pretty much lost everything, you know, in 08. Everything, every last dime that I had, I lost. I'm talking about I ended up going to LA Fitness to some memberships. You know, can you imagine I felt that trying to sell somebody a gym membership? You know how hard that was? That shit was hard, bro.
Yeah, I could dig it, but you know what? I respect you because again, you took action. You like, cause a lot of people like at that time they like. I ain't trying to be. I shouldn't say this, but people blow their brains out or just walk away and give up. You like one thing I could say. Just you telling your story is like for lack of a better term, the stick to itiveness. Like you just get right back up on the horse. Like, all right, that ain't work. I'm gonna go sell these memberships until I figure it out. Like,
I mean, so
it's perseverance. It's perseverance.
Is that fortunately I made a lot of money in college and blew it. That I understand now that money's like an ocean. Like money comes and it goes. You know, it comes in waves. And so you just got to ride it. You could be down, but as long as you got the perseverance, right? As long as you keep grinding, it doesn't matter what, like the money will come back. And I tell people all the time, especially in real estate, it doesn't matter what you do in real estate. Everything works. Everything. It doesn't matter. It all works. How do you want to do it? What works for you? If you want to wholesale, do it at a high level. You can buy a whole long term, high level. You want to flip, you want to do construction. If you want to sell funeral plots, it doesn't matter. It all works. So you just got to figure out what you want to do.
This is true, and that's a great point too. You said about like you're telling people at the at your seminar that you have to figure out what works for you. You can't just take your story and try to just do what you do, right? Like what they can take from it is the perseverance. But that's a great point, right? Because I was speaking to someone the other day. I was trying to help them out. They're getting a rental property, and I was showing them how I screen my tenants, and they're like, "Wow, you know how to do this?" And I'm like, "Listen, the reason I know that is because I made every mistake known to man. I fell for the single mother trick. My kids, I need the help. I've went through the thing where I'm gonna give you 6 months up front, so I don't run their credit, and then that's the last month I get is month 6. Like I've made every mistake there is to make.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and again, that's why I told you when we first started. The one thing I appreciate about your story is you don't mind telling the failures because that's what you learn from. You shared one the other day that I actually reshared on our page because to me it was powerful. It was about how everybody is, running with this BRRR strategy, to buy,
Right.
Yeah, rent, repeat, the whole thing. And you talked about how you tried that and you pulled so much equity out that the deal went bad for you, right? So tell us a little bit about that whole process, that project, and what did you learn from that?
So with that one, that house is at 22nd and Dolphin, right? And I was working for the housing authority once again. So this was, I forget what year it was, but I started with the housing authority maybe in like 2010 or something like that or whatever. But so I'm working at the housing authority. So I'm down Blumberg. So I'm at 22nd and Jefferson. And so I could just shoot right through Raymond Rosen, get to my house, collect rent, shoot right back to work, and it was a little tough, but I was right there all the time. Oh, you want to move in? Cool. I'll be there. I ain't had to tell my supervisor all the time. I could just peel out real fast. And when it don't go, I mean, my supervisor was thorough anyway, right? So I could just tell her, like, I'm shoot over here because, I get my work done, whatever.
Yeah, you right there.
But then they moved me to Bartram Village. So now I'm all the way in Southwest, when there's a bunch of stuff going on, it was hard to maintain, and it just got to be too much of a burden, So now I get off work at Bartram at 5 o'clock. Then I got to shoot all the way to 22nd, in Dolphin. Actually, one at a time, it's already dark, boys out there, like I'm not scared of a human being, but a lot of dudes out there not human beings. Like, no, bro.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I do too. That's why I'm laughing. But it's also a situation where, and this is something that people, right? So people always say, you always talking about buying in the hood, buying in the hood. What about, listen, I'm the same way. It's no sense for me to be out there when it get dark. Like, you have to be smart too.
You gotta be smart. Exactly. Like these boys, they on all types of drugs.
It's
not just weed.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just weed. And so I'm like, they be out of their mind all the time. Right. And so I'm like, man, I'm down here. It's like 30 bull. First of all, that block is dark, huge trees, there's no light, and everybody know I'm the rent boy. So when I go there, it might have 8 rooms. I'm saying, so I might, who knows how much I'm coming out with that day. So I always had cash on me. And I'm going down there. So, I like the turkey leg to them right there, man. So I ain't messing, So then I'm like, damn. So when I was doing it at noon, at 1, it was cool. But damn, it's in wintertime, 6 o'clock, and it's got to be too much, man. And then the home invasion I talked about on there, and it was a lot. And plus, at that time, I just had a kid, so my risk tolerance had gone down. At that, it was like, I mean, these chances I ain't got to take for no few $100s, and then it just kept breaking in. Like when the tenants moved out trying to fix it, just kept breaking in. And it was just so cost prohibitive for me to just keep putting money into it that I just had to let it go to foreclosure. And I had so much stress was relieved when I went to foreclosure. I had to deal with that. But I had so much peace of mind, with that house being gone. That's why I'll never do rooms again. I made a lot of money for a while. But I don't know other cats out there really killing it doing rooms. I know there's one dude, I think he got a couple hundred rooms. All he do.
Probably about Jake.
Yeah. I ain't gonna put nobody's name out there, but what I'm gonna say is you gotta be careful. All right, another piece of advice. People out there, you gotta be careful doing rooms, especially if you don't. First of all, it's hard to get zoned for that. But be careful because I had a client of mine who was killing it doing rooms. He was taking 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom houses and literally putting up plywood and making extra rooms. He'd have a 1-bedroom, take a 3-in-1. The next thing you know, he got a 8-in-1. I'm like, how you rent 8 rooms in this little ass house in 1 bathroom? Wow. He was killing it. But what happened was, the person didn't want to pay rent. He got into an argument, and their remedy was, I'm gonna snitch on you. And he had so many of them that it was like a big catch for L&I, and they shut not just the one that the person didn't pay down, they shut all his joints down.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he tried to open it back up, and then they threatened to send his ass to jail, and he just left it alone. That's when he called me sell all these joints. So because so be careful out there with them rooms, but it can be lucrative, but you just got to be careful with that, man.
No, listen, the house down Dolphin was a huge house. It was a 5-bedroom house, and it was 6, but the back bedroom was real small. I'm talking about closet size. So I rent that one out $50 a week, and then I built 2 more rooms on the first floor, and I had 8 rooms in there. Man, I was getting it for a little while, especially in the summer months. Because there's no bills.
Yeah,
they ain't no air conditioning. All they had was fans. So utility bills wasn't even crazy. And then I had to hit. So utilities was nothing. So
yeah. That's crazy.
What meter? You know what I'm
saying? So once you lost that, what was the lesson that you took from that experience with that? Because I know you said you took equity.
Right. So that's the thing, right? So I was in there, I think 90-ish or something like that. Ended up being out. I refinanced the cash out, and the cash came in very handy because this is the time where I'm just recovering, from losing everything. And that was my first big cash infusion like that refinance. So that helped me, I had a driver's license. I had to, I paid my tickets, my license back. So that refi really helped me out to kind of get back on as a, being regular, being, driving through. What's weird real quick? I'm gonna say this. When I was driving to the house in North Philly, I felt a sense of relief once I crossed the bridge back in the West, because the police presence down there was so heavy. And I was like, yo, just let me get up. Let me just shoot up Susquehanna right to the park, and let me get out of here. It's it was just
it's like an occupying army. It's like an occupying army. I lived in that neighborhood. I lived 2 blocks in there. When growing up, I lived 2 blocks from what you're talking about. So when you're talking about this stuff, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, man, it was a sense of relief to get out of there, especially at nighttime. So many police around, everybody over. I just had to go. It's it was too much, man. So hit the bridge, I let the burden get lifted.
Yeah.
So plus I'm, running around, I ain't got no license and all that kind of stuff too. So it was extra, added layers to it, but still. But so at any rate, so then I tried to sell the house, and nobody would buy it. Nobody would come even see the house, and then I tried to do a lease purchase, and it didn't work. But the person, this is the last straw. This is when I was like, you know what, I gotta let this house go. So before I bought it, it was illegal at the hour, right? The guy, they had the stripper pole in it, all that kind of stuff, right? The guy, the ATF came, locked dude up, And after they, and so I had the house. I'm still fixing it up at this point. I'm holding it on at this big mortgage. I'm still holding. And my brother is coming to my house one night. So I go to the door. And my brother is the dude that had got locked up before at my front door because he ended up throwing parties in that house. The same parties that he got locked up for, he threw in the same exact house. He throwing parties. I didn't know. I ain't go down there in like months at this time period.
Yeah.
And so he throwing parties down there, and he came to me to legally rent it to him so he could do it legally. The same thing he just got locked up for a few years prior. I'm like, if you're gonna do it, at least get a different house. At least do something different.
That house got bad energy, man. It's just it's too much going on with that house, man.
When I came to my crib, I'm like this nigga's into my house. Like, nah, I'm not. No. So at that point, I was like, you gotta go.
Just let that go. All right. So when did you finally like figure it out? Like, all right. So and you mentioned that you're a conservative investor. So one thing that all these so it sounds like you know how to build, right? But the one thing you learned through going through all this is how to be a more conservative investor, but still grow a business. When did it click and you figured it out? Like, this is how I have to operate within the investment space with real estate.
Well, I think it's just my personality in general. Like, I don't like, I get anxiety, all these bills, all these blue envelopes coming every month. And like, man, I got to keep paying, everything. And it just becomes, too much for me to juggle. It could be easier. I could make it easier, but I'm just a peace of mind person. Like, I would, I need the peace of mind more than I need the money. Like once again, I said, I got everything I need. Like the crib where I live, my mortgage is $1,100 a month. My car note, I did a car note. I got it last year. I had a '99 Dodge Caravan that I paid $1,400 for. I love that Caravan. And somebody T-boned me and totaled it, but they had to get something. And so I ended up that's gonna be a little more reliable. So I got a 2011 Camry, right? And the payments. So I was gonna pay cash. It was like $6,500, and the guy was like, if you get payments of like $160, and I was like, yeah, run it. Like, I don't even feel 160, but if I pay you the $6,000, I put that to work. So I did end up getting a car note, and so that's my life. I mean, I don't, once a week I don't buy anything. So for me, it's easy to be a conservative investor because I don't spend money, right? If you spending all your profit on life, and you spend on your profit on stuff, then you gotta figure out a way to get more money, right? To keep reading up. But I will say this though, I came to the conclusion 2 days ago that I should have went to new construction 2 years ago. Doing the flips, I think I like doing the flips, but I was just looking at the financing terms and everything else, and like coming to profit margins. I probably should have went to new construction 2 years ago and took at least one bigger risk, right? I wouldn't recommend people do new construction if it's the last dime, but if you can afford to put that 20 whatever % down and still be able to make other money other places, but I'm looking at it, even that paying 10%, on 210,000, it ain't but like $2,000 or $1,900 a month. There's not a crazy amount of money to pay to do new construction, right? So the return, it's a really good return if you buy a good lot. Not if you're paying $100,000 for a lot, but if you had a good lot or get a decent lot, like it's way better returns on a flip. And so I think I should have done it 2 years ago. I think I kind of missed that boat. I believe I'm going to try it, but I think I missed the boat though.
That's actually interesting because I've heard a lot of people say that, right? So, and back to my mistakes, right? So, this is a show about mistakes. One of the things I used to do when I used to buy rental properties, single family homes, a lot of times I would try to buy them where I did, obviously everybody does. We have to do minimal work. And I would try to like just do patchwork and just to get a tenant in there.
Right.
And I would get calls all the time. So I tell people all the time now, I have most of my properties, I haven't even been to some of them. I have one property, I ain't been there in years, but the rent's there every month. I don't know what's going on. That's probably not a good thing to say. It's terrible to say, but I'm being honest, right? But one of the things I learned is now when I buy a property, I just rip everything out, rip it all the way down because now I know what's in there as opposed to going over someone else's work. But I had to learn that through trial and error of like just putting a couple dollars in, like throw a couple pieces of sheetrock up and the plumbing's bad. electric's bad, this is bad, that's bad. I don't know what's back there. Now, at this point, rip it all out, build it all right back up. You know what I'm saying?
It's exactly. No, I'm the same way. I mean, it costs you more in service orders than it does to do one rehab one time. You know, like I don't get that many service orders in my property. I really get a service order, you know, but also I got really good tenants. But started getting better tenants. I started making my houses look better, you know. Like even my Section 8 stuff, I put granite, stainless. Like it's really only like a few $1,000s for me to flip, you know, the way that I do my Section 8 stuff, right? All my cheaper stuff. And so I make it so the tenants, they know they're not gonna get a better house nowhere else.
Man, that's amazing advice. Hey, Corey, let me tell you why that's amazing advice, because I feel that, right? I talk to so many investors who, because they feel like they're putting on Section 8, they do the bare minimum. To me, that's the absolute wrong way to be, right? Because some Section 8 tenants could be a pain. You go above and beyond, and a lot of times people don't realize as a landlord, this is still a customer service business.
Right, true.
You do good. You do good by your tenants. They do good by you.
Right. So listen, I'm gonna say this to that point, right? So I remember Matt G Home Loans, when me and Aisha did his event in New York a few weeks ago. It was a random comment, right? Somebody asked me about bad tenants, and I said, before you even talk about the tenant, you know, you got to look at it like your girlfriend, right? Like if she's crazy and scratching your car up, right? What did you do to make her crazy, right? Is she a bad tenant? Right, because like why is she not paying rent? Why is the rent in escrow? Like, were your service orders completed on time? You know, were you responsive? Are you providing a quality place? You know, and if you're not doing those things, then you can't complain about your tenant being a bad tenant. Now, if you're doing what you're supposed to do as a landlord, you know, and they still not doing their part, then you have a legit gripe. But what I find is that with me, when I became a better landlord, I got better tenants. You know,
that's a bar right there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a gem right there.
You're not gonna have bad tenants if, like you said, if your customer services are at the top level, at the top notch, then bad tenants is not something you really gonna have to.
And you've done your screening. Another mistake. Back to my mistakes again. When I used to like take Section 8 tenants when I first got into the game, I would just take Section 8 tenants. I still didn't run them the way I would run a traditional person's like credit, criminal background, all that. Cause I'm like, man, Section 8, this money guaranteed. You know what I mean? Like, and I be trying to get that bread in. So I'm like, all right, so you know, and taking shortcuts. Anytime I'm taking a shortcut, it never worked, right?
It always walk you back to the point where
it never works. It might work for a little bit, but it just never works, right? So you have to like screen your tenants, even if they are a Section 8 tenant. You still got to do your screening and all that. You know what I mean?
So once again, I managed at the worst level for 6 years in the housing authority, right? So, you know, I use what they told me working for the housing authority, like how to screen, and we had to take everybody. Like we couldn't deny anybody. But through working there, I'm at Blumberg. When I worked there, you know, it's going down, right? But it was 500 units. You know, at Bartram Village, it was 510 units. I was at Johnson Homes. It's 525 units. Then I was at Spring Garden. That was only 200 units. Then I went over to tax credit site, Pat Mac at 10th and not Diamond, 10th and Poplar. Right. And so by working in these places, I got an opportunity to really dig deep into people's lives, right, and understand like the difference in individuals and really do like understand how to screen for personality, not just everything else. And it's not really from screening, it's from getting to know people, you know, at a deep level. I'm talking about, you know, then to be a therapist at times, like, cause I'm there. You know, I'm dealing with, you know, with murder. I'm dealing with suicide. You know, I'm dealing with, you know, people homeless. I'm dealing with people, you know, sex abuse. I'm dealing with all of this stuff just as a property manager. And so I learned a lot about people, right, from that. And I take that, you know, even in the screening. And so one of the things that I do, I started to buy the larger houses, you know, for my Section 8 stuff. So I might get a 5 or 6 bedroom house for Section 8. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, you know, you won't get paid like a duplex, but they still gonna sell you the house for the cost of a 3 bedroom. It's the same thing, it's just a house, right? It matter if it's the hood. you're not going to pay no more than you would for a regular 3-bedroom. It's going to cost you more to rehab it, but what that does is that allows me to get 3 generations. And so if I got mom, the kids, and grandmom, those are the ones I get no problem, right? If I just get like the single mom and the kids, that's when I get the domestic abuse issues, right? That's when I get the girls just trying to fuck for the rent. That's when I get like that stuff. But if I get the 3 generations, never get a problem.
Yo, that's
ours.
I never thought about it that way. That's absolutely a gem. And man, listen, because I've made mistakes where I didn't screen a tenant. I had that one crib in Island. I didn't screen a tenant. And I got a call from the neighbor. Chick was running a back page site right out the crib. You know what I'm saying? So I made that mistake, but that's absolutely it. I'm sitting there, my mind blown. I'm like writing down my own notes. That's a good idea. That's fire right there. You get 3 generations. That's man, good stuff right there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, bro, it worked. Because first of all, grandma always home, always. Grandma don't go nowhere, So everything be chill, man. So I love 3 generations. That's my favorite.
And I had another property in North, right? And this is why I found this funny. I didn't even know at the time. I didn't know you could do this. Where now it was like 2 generations. But the mother was the one that had the voucher. But the daughter became an adult. The mother passed away, and like the daughter took over the crib. Mm-hmm. I was like, yo, they actually are passing down vouchers now. This is it's like she inherited the crib on a Section 8 tip. It was cool with me. Like the rent still coming for me. I'm good. But
the only problem with that is we should go to recertify. She might not qualify for the same amount of money, so that might be a little painful right there. But otherwise, but nah, man. So like one thing that I resent right now is when I talk to other investors, right? You talk to like the big corporate investors, right? You talk to the hedge funds guys. You talk to all these white people downtown, and they always refer to neighborhoods, the ABC neighborhoods, this and that. I'm like, nah, man, it's just people. It's just because all y'all see is a bunch of poor people. Like, okay, this is the level of poor people, and they treat everybody the same, and so that's why they always get poor results.
Absolutely. But that goes into the whole aspect of when you look at it like a customer service business, right? So I've had people that would have been problematic, but I'm so like upfront. So I use I put it out there. I use a service. I use Cozy, right? And what I like about that is any service order or anything, they put it to me in an email, put it in writing. I respond in writing, and I always tell my tenants this is a way to protect both of us. So if there's a problem and you feel like I'm not handling it in the timely manner, it's documented. You know what I mean? Right, okay. And if I feel like it is done, it's documented on both sides. It protects us. But to me, like the customer service aspect is something that's missing. And you're right. They look at this A neighborhood or B neighborhood, and they start to treat people different. But if you treat people, like you get good results. So I think that's amazing information you share right there. Like, look at yourself first. What are you doing? And then start your complaints, right? So that's a bar in itself. So you went through the process, your ups and downs, you figured it out, and you got into real estate. What was the epiphany that made you make that transition from like, okay, so I lost the mortgage thing, the party thing didn't work. Let me get into the real. What was it that made it click? That made you get into the real estate business? Was it someone else that was doing it, or what happened?
So once again, my dad. We always had property, so it was nothing for me to go back and do it. Like they were always telling me, to buy some houses, and I think I took my dad's advice a couple of times about houses not to purchase, and I shouldn't have. It was. I'll tell you 2 different instances of where I shouldn't listen to my dad. I know because parents are getting kids away all the time. I learned that I was 32. Like parents, a lot of times are the kids' worst enemies, man. But it was a house at 38th and Baring. They wanted $40,000 for it. Mind you, this might have been 97, 90. No. I came from school. It was like 01. And 30th and Baring, they wanted $40,000 for that. It's probably $500,000 probably right now. And then it was one at 38th and Haverford. That one they wanted 18. Now, but it was a tree growing out of the back. It took the whole back down. It was a whole big thing. And that probably was the right choice and to buy it. But I could have, bought that house and leveled it. I probably made $100,000 just doing that, on that one. But the tree was scary for me at the time. But I had no money, but I didn't know how to get a mortgage. Plus, everybody can get a mortgage, still then.
Yeah, back then.
Everybody was still like, hey, you can have that house.
But you know what? You got to make those mistakes or those non-decisions in order to grow to get to the point where you are now. I was just telling a story our last episode about I had a property on the 1400 block of Colorado, and I had got it for like next to nothing.
South Colorado?
Yes, South Colorado Street. I got it for next to nothing. I got it for like 10 or 15, and I took title, flipped it real quick for like sold it for like 40. And I thought I was a genius. I was killing it back then. And I was just telling Ish, I was like, now look, and they got like $500,000 properties on the block, and I'm sick. I don't even drive down a block no more. But the thing is that I always tell that story because I keep that in my mind as I make a decision with buying whole versus renting. So now that you got into the business or whatever, do you do a little bit of everything, or what do you prefer? Do you prefer the long-term buy and hold? Do you like to flip? What is your thing?
So I like the process of the flip, but I hate selling properties. I hate selling houses, right? So, but one of the reasons why I do flip, I do get therapy out of it, though. I like to take, a shell and make it something beautiful. I do enjoy that process, but also I use those profits to put back into my buy and holds. It's just that I can buy and holds without using as much leverage. And contrary to popular belief, when people say I'm not against leverage, I'm not against, cashing out. I always tell people just do it cautiously. And so how my portfolio is shaping up is kind of by accident, but I'm liking how it is I'll have a big mortgage on one house. I cash out everything in one house, like maximum. Then the next house, it'll be like just what I put in, like a manageable mortgage. And the third house will have like no mortgage. And that's how it's kind of shaping up. And I really like how that's looking. I do want to have a certain number of houses. Because to the point where if I need to take a bigger risk, I can take it. And mind you, I don't mind going to zero, right? So I can spend everything, right? If I got this, let's say the number is, $7,000 from the free and clear houses, I can lose everything and still have a decent safety net. Because once again, my household expenses are probably only like $2,500, a month.
Yeah.
Keep everything low, right? And so, and I do want to do bigger stuff. I just don't need to do everything, right? I'm not in the mood like Pac-Man where I got to buy everything I possibly can. I can still, pick them strategically. Let the young guys have that. I try to, it's always it's like a lot of 20-something guys in here right now, right? And they all got into the business. They've only seen the good market.
It's crazy you say that because it's like kind of the conversation last episode. She was like, let's see what happens when things really. And I made that same comment about like I'm old enough to have been through the bad times. So, but you learn from it. And another point you made, and I always tell this story about myself, and I'm gonna keep repeating it. So as our listeners, like who listen to the podcast and follow what we do, they have an understanding. I've been to the point where you have 50 or 60 cribs at one time, right? But I literally was making less money than I am with a smaller portfolio because back then I was buying any and everything I could. I was leveraged ungodly. Now I understand, and I kind of got this, and I was telling Ish this, I got this from like reading Warren Buffett's book about he doesn't buy until it's the perfect time to buy. So he's always sitting on a lot of cash. Even right now, if you look up Berkshire Hathaway, his holding company, how much they got in cash, Corey? They got like a crazy amount of billions of dollars. They literally just keep it in cash. So and now his is applied to the stock market, but it's the same concept. So for me now, I like to buy cheap houses. So I've bought houses as little as like I bought houses literally for $1 from people that were losing them. I bought houses for this is over the last couple of years, $3,000, $1,000. Like I'm buying houses that I can't lose when I'm buying houses that cheap. But the fact of the matter is now you put your own cash into it, you fix it up, rent it out. Like so my cash flow is so much more than so those are a lot of gems you dropped in terms of leverage. You can use leverage, but be smart about how you use your leverage.
You gotta be smart. Listen, it's not like a foreclosure to make you think about how you want to leverage, how you want to refinance. Right?
Yeah, man. Because I've seen cats, and I always mention this. I've seen cats like live off of their rental income, and one bad thing happens, roof goes, and they start ducking their tenants. They start ducking their tenants worse than the tenants duck them.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing my first two subject to deals. I posted about the one. I know for a fact I'm doing it wrong. Like, I'm looking at it, paperwork that I did. I was like, shit, this is like, after I posted, I got like a lot of advice from people that's kind of do it. And I'm like, yo, this is wrong. But, I already put the trigger on it. I already settled. I'm waiting for I didn't pay the reinstatement. It's a foreclosure. I didn't pay the reinstatement yet. So I'm waiting for them to give me the bank wouldn't take the reinstatement. They only want the exact amount. I was like, nah, it's gonna be about, I'll pay you over. Like, nah. We only want the exact amount for the reinstatement. And I'm like, all right, so I'm waiting for that number. So I'm still going to, I already settled. And so the way I did it, it was a state property, right? Okay. So I put it in both of our names, right? It was, a state of so-and-so, and then my LLC. And then she also signed a deed, deeding it over, once it's paid from both of us to just me. And like I said, it's wrong. But like I said, I'm going to go through with it.
But again, you see, man, I think the one thing I'm taking away from this whole podcast, this whole webcast is like, you're a person of action, man. Like, you like, I might make a mistake, but I'm going to do something.
Yeah, I just know this. What will happen is, if the bank accelerates, I'll just sell the house. Like, there's enough equity that I'm still selling to make a profit to accelerate, and I'll get it so quick. It's in Cows Creek. Cows Creek leak, so yeah. I know I'll get it out of it. It's a 4-bedroom, 1-bath. It's in Cows Creek. I think the mortgage on it, after I pay the reinstatement, would be like $42,000, and it's livable now. All I'm doing is painting and putting in the kitchen and a little of the light work. So, I'll just go ahead and put it in the market for $120 if I have to. I'll still make a profit. I'll be okay with that.
That's another point I want to get to real quick. I noticed it was one of your hashtags, Cobb Creek leak, right? As someone who's like, I'm a real estate analyst too, so I still maintain like my gig in terms of looking at the overall market. That's one of the areas I'm noticing on my own, just looking at the data, looking at the points on the map that are heating up in terms of the prices going up. What's going on in Cobbs Creek that's making the market like take a shift over there? What's going on?
No,
is that all you making a market change, or what's going on?
But people don't. Thing is, the reason why first of all, I live in Cobbs Creek. Like I said, after my parents split, I moved up, and my grandmother was already living up here on Cedar Avenue. So I've been coming up back and forth. When she was alive, right? So all my life I was in Cobbs Creek. But what people don't realize is that prior to the recession, the city as a whole was appreciating at like 7% year over year. But when you extrapolate, like West Philly, it was like 11%. So I'm like, okay, let me keep buying West. Like, if it was already appreciating more, like 30% more versus the city, I just keep buying West, right? But a part of that, is the PEN enhanced mortgage zone. So the effective PEN give you like a forgivable grant, a forgivable loan, something like that, like $10,000, live there. Plus, it's just a dope neighborhood, man. I love living around here. And what you see, if you come to like West Philly, like, Cedar Park, Cows Creek, there's only 2 diverse parts of Philadelphia. It's around this West Philly area because of the university, people from all over the world. When I take my son into Clark Park, we might hear 6 different languages, like in that 2 hours time that we in the park, right? So it's one of the wealthier areas, and then you got to go down Kensington to the poorest area. Those are the only 2 diverse parts of the city. That's it. Everywhere else is segregated, and so we get all the different cultures, we get all the different foods. I could get the city hall by bike in like 15 minutes. I can get to the airport in like 9 to 10 minutes. I don't have to even own a car to live here. This is to me, and we got large houses with decent sized yards. You go to South Philly, it is close to downtown, but you go and get a little shoebox with no yard and no parking. Other than that, on the north side, you really got to cross the Vine Street Expressway, go through all the commercial stuff in Collar Hill before you get to a neighborhood where you can kind of get downtown easily. And then on top of that, other than Center City, University City has the second most jobs in the city. So people want to live close to work. They got no choice but to live in College Creek.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's interesting to watch that develop like that. And you brought up something I didn't know about Penn and those grants there, but I can see how that can be a factor. I remember when Penn bought the Graduate Hospital, right? So Graduate Hospital is actually run and owned by the University of Pennsylvania, and they started giving grants for people to move close to that hospital. Yeah. That whole area went through the roof.
I know, but here's the thing. But Penn does it right. Drexel does it too, and Temple does it, and it doesn't. Their programs they're not having the same effect.
I wonder why.
But I think Temple is. I won't even buy around Temple. I'm cool. I'll let everybody else buy Temple. It's like I just don't trust it because you can't build a sustainable neighborhood off of tenants, right? And everything around Temple is just apartments. So I'm not gonna. The prices are too high for me to even consider going.
Oh, I about to say, I don't even think about it because I'm priced out. Like,
let's go back to that bar. You can't build a sustainable neighborhood with apartments, right? Yeah, because everybody's transient. Like nobody knows anybody, and so that's a bar. Like you will not build a sustainable neighborhood with all apartments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't do it. That's why I don't trust Temple. Now, not on the west side, right? But now if you look at like the east side, like around that 2-2 around Firth, I think there's a lot more single families you starting to come up. But for the most part, that whole corridor, from Temple Hospital is gonna be all apartments.
See, I know what neighborhood you're talking about because I live in Lansdowne, which is 2 minutes outside the city, and the first thing I hit is Cobb's Creek. On my way into the city. I live literally 2 minutes outside the city. So, you know what I mean? I know exactly the neighborhoods that you're talking about, and I experienced those. Like, I grew up in North Philly. Like, I grew up, had your apartment. I grew up at 20th and York, which is about 3 blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you was telling me about the police presence, when I tell people I grew up in like an occupation, like an occupying army lived in my neighborhood, nobody believes me.
Nah, you really feel that though, man. But ultimately, I have confidence in the city as a whole, right? So I tell people all the time, you could throw a dart at Philadelphia, buy that property, and you'll make money. There are no geniuses. People, oh man, I'm gonna buy over here. I'm smart. I'm gonna buy over here. Nah, just buy. As long as you keep buying, you'll keep making money.
Yeah, that's a bar too.
I have a lot of confidence in it, except for the Northeast. I wouldn't buy a damn thing in the Northeast.
Yeah. Shout out to all our people who still think that's the destination to go to.
Oh my God!
This ain't 82, y'all. Y'all bugging.
Hey, listen. So when I first lost my mortgage company, I had to get a part-time job. I was doing 3 jobs at the same time, right? I worked at the Warren unit. Overnight, when people get locked up, I had to fax the warrant to CFCF. I worked, I was a substitute teacher. Then I did mortgages all at the same time, right? I did all 3 of those jobs. Good, it was great. Like a 24-hour. It was a crazy time, right?
Oh, a hustler, right?
I'm doing everything. No, it was. Listen, I'm at. This is my schedule. So from 5 to 8:30, I'm at the mortgage company. Get off that. Then go to the Warren unit from 11 to 7. Sometimes I would try to get off work at 6 o'clock, go sleep for a couple hours, take a phone call, take a substitute teaching job somewhere, be late for that. I was late. I can go to the same school any day, like 2 days in a row I couldn't do because I was late the first day. So I'd be late, get there like 10, work there from 10 to 3, back to the mortgage company, 5 o'clock. Like I did that probably 4 days a week for maybe about a year. You know, that's just how I was living, right? But at the Warren unit, this was in '09. This was 10 years ago now. They were calling the Northeast the new North Philly in '09.
Yep.
So I mean,
and that's the thing, right? So like, and you know, this gets into a whole deeper discussion. I don't even want to really go down this hole about how we think their ice is colder. So we try to follow, but that's a whole nother topic, right? Here's what I do want to say though. So now you figured out your path and all that, and I just want to know, what is the future for your business? Like, where do you see yourself growing to? What are your goals? Are your goals a certain number of doors? Is it a certain level of cash flow? Or is it just like, what is your ultimate goal?
So my goal, and this is where you can learn things from, right? So I'm just say this one thing. When I was at Blumberg, it was this one cat. He had the 9th floor of Judson on Smash. I'm talking about security guards. When they went to buildings, they would skip the 9th floor. He had it on lock, like hand over fist. And it's like 21, 22. Killing the dope game. And I asked him, I was like, listen, man, so when is enough, right? And he looked at me like crazy. He didn't understand that. And then he came back to me a few months later. He was like, listen, OG, I get it. I understand what you're trying to say. Next year, I'm done, right? Talking about real estate. After that next year, I didn't see him down Blumberg no more. And I saw him in the Home Depot. He bought 12 houses, free and clear, rehab, all in Brewery Town. Got them all. Mind you, he bought these in Brewery Town. This had to been '02. So his prices was very low back then. Now I'm sure he had 12 houses then. So I'm sure he's a millionaire now. He's a millionaire then, but then he's a legal millionaire now.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing that he said to me that I still carry. I saw him at Home Depot that day. He was like, listen, man, like, I just need to make $7,000 a month. Like, there's nothing that you can't do in this world with $7,000 a month. You can do anything you want. And I thought about that, and I was like, damn, you're right. Like, it doesn't really take, like, a lot. People are taking penitentiary chances, and you out here trying to, everybody's goal is to have every house and be the biggest millionaire. I had a meeting with East, Justin, and Reed. And I said, I'm okay with being a poorest millionaire. I have no problem with that. I don't need to be out here, right, to keep chasing. I'm very comfortable right now, and I'm going to continue to grow at my own pace. But so to answer your question, I just need to get my free and clear portfolio to 10,000. And everything else, I'll go from there. So now I'm still doing some finance. I'm clearing debt. I'm selling a couple of rentals because the prices are so high. It's like it's hard for me to turn it down. So one of my rentals, man, it was a really good rental. I was making like 50%. And it was really hard for me to sell that one. But they offered me, was 100,000 profit. I'm like, she gotta go.
Right? Listen. You just dropped so many gems right there, right? So for one, you're right. It doesn't take a lot, but I'm gonna get to what you just said, like the emotional part. You made that decision, and me and Corey always talk about how people let emotions mess them up investment wise, right? You said it's 100,000. I'm not attached to this. This is the best decision for me business wise. It gotta go. Right. So that's the one thing. And you absolutely right. Like you sitting there says 7,000. I was thinking to myself, like, I'm so frugal. I probably could do like 4. I could be comfortable as hell with 4. I'm like you. My expenses are so low. Like my wife and I joke all the time about it. Like, because once you start to understand money. So outside of real estate, I study the markets. And the thing about studying the markets is it makes you see the entire world different. When you understand how capitalism works and how the stock market works, you look at everything different. So now every dollar that I pay out on something, I look as future income loss. When I know right now I can go buy a dividend stock, and this is not investment advice. When I know that I can go buy a share of a Wells Fargo, right? I can go buy a share of an actual bank, and every share I buy is going to pay me back X amount in dividends. I look at putting out money different. So you know what I mean? So it's like in living that lifestyle, you're absolutely right. And I was having a conversation with a client last week. And the conversation was, he doesn't have a huge portfolio, but the conversation was about how most people, when they want to get in this game, they look at the big wigs. He got 500 doors. She got 88 doors. If you get 2 free and clear cribs, it'll change your whole life. People always want to have $7 million. Like, and I always tell people this, even when it comes to like our people getting insured and our people building up assets, like stop thinking about needing $1 billion, right? You don't need $1 billion. But how different would your life have been, Corey, if one of your ancestors got you to the point where you had $20,000 even a year coming in before you got out of bed? That changes your life.
Right.
Yeah. I to be honest, my ancestors did the right thing by me, and I was a jerk. So I'm not even going to talk about it.
No. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not talking. I'm not saying. I know you.
I know exactly what you're saying. Like, my ancestors did something similar to that, and I was young, dumb, and stupid, and my emotions got in the way, which is why I'm so unemotional when it comes to investing now.
Yeah. So I'm glad you made that point. Your whole thing is you just want to live comfortably. You don't need to be flashy or flamboyant. You just want to be able to like make
right. And listen, and what I tell people, I say all the time, man, it's like, let me just help you to make $2,000 extra a month, right? If you make $2,000 extra a month and stop buying shit, your life gets very easy, right? You have to stop buying shit. You have to, right? But also what I say is that everything you buy is literally extending the amount of time that you have to work, right? So if you have a X amount that you need for retirement, when you bought that Gucci purse, that's $3,000 away from what's another week of work that you have to do versus retirement. It's like these are it's a literal figure. Like you're really have to work that much longer.
Listen, my brother Corey and I wrote a book, right? It's called Own Your Time and Space. And it's about the concept of how time is valuable, right? I remember when I got my first job, I worked at a movie theater up indoors. It's not even there no more, AMC. And I'm so old. I remember that's right. I'm so old that the minimum wage back then was like $4.25, right? But I remember the one thing I learned from that job when I got my first check and looked at it after they took taxes and everything, I was disgusted for one. But then, like, my mom was like, "You got your first check, everything on you now. You gotta go take care of your own stuff." It makes you so my value of money is different. I'm like, I gotta spend a whole hour to get $4. I don't want to buy that no more. This is hours worth of work. You start looking at Jordans, like, what the hell am I doing asking for Jordans? I gotta work like 6 weeks to get, you know what I mean? So it's like that whole idea.
Bro, listen, I've only ever owned one pair of Jordans. I was in North Carolina, and the Foot Locker, it was a misprint. The Jordans were $19.99. I bought 2 pair of them. Like, yo, let me get them. And they honored the coupon, even on the rain check. They honored the $19.99 coupon, and I bought 2 pair of Jordans. The only Jordans I ever had in my life. Never had a.
I ain't a Jordan.
Pair, but I tell people all the time. So what I don't understand, what I need to really learn, I need to learn more about the stocks and everything. I need to learn more about the life insurances. Like I know real estate. The other things I really don't know much about. They all kind of go together, make a whole person. But what I'm doing right now is I realize that 100% of my net worth is real estate, right? And so maybe like 99.4% really real estate. I own, also other stuff, but mostly real estate. And so I need to diversify that. I need to really make real estate maybe like 30, 40% like of my overall income.
Yeah,
but I'm working on.
But here's the one good thing: by you working in the business and doing what you've done, everything else will come easier to you. Because the one thing I say about real estate is, it's almost like a complete financial education.
Yeah, if every piece of
if you have to go through the process of doing a flip and also like going to settlements and dealing with the contract, you're learning so much about business that everything else like will just fall into place for you. So I will say that. Before we get you out of here though, I want to ask you about books, right? What is your favorite business book or something that you've picked up or learned from as throughout your journey?
It's not even inclining to think about it. Wash Your Why Guys Have All the Fun is the book that got me out. Listen, every morning, this is when I was a senior in college. I didn't want to be there anymore. I was damn near ready to leave, like drop out. I had one semester to go, and I just was like, I'm over it. I'm making money doing other stuff. Every morning, I listen to in the shower on repeat. I would listen to Dead Prez Discipline, and I would read an excerpt of "Wash Your White Guys Have All the Fun."
Reginald Lewis,
man, he's a huge hero of mine. I really appreciate. He went to HBCU also. So and all of that, man. But dude is my hero. I mean, I think everybody should read that. That book should really be in schools.
That's a dope book. I read that book too, and I was like, and what was ill to me about that book is, so I'm a huge reader. And most of the time, specifically with Black businesses, so you read about like Robert, like the Johns, people always have built businesses like from the ground up. Like he figured out like how to use leverage, how to use the capital of Wall Street, like, and that's why should white guys have all the fun. He played in a game, and that's why I'm pretty much an advocate of telling people to learn about the markets, because a lot of us fall in love with real estate, and there's nothing wrong with that because real estate is a powerful, powerful tool. But let's not be locked out of this billions of dollars that transfers on a daily basis. Like
$36 trillion through New York every day.
Yeah, so we gotta get it. We gotta get involved in that too.
We definitely have to. And then even on the business side, man, I just posted that article a few months ago. That Philly, man, 60% Black, only 2% of the businesses are owned by Black people in the city of Philadelphia.
That's got to change.
That's an astonishing number to me. And, and that's kind of the reason why I'm out here. I'm just, talking to people. One of the best things I did was, talking and working at Bloomberg. I did get a chance to, like, the one young dude, I hope that I had a little effect on him. It was another young guy who he was in the street there too, but he ended up getting murdered before he had a chance to, to do it. And then working in public housing really give me an opportunity to really appreciate my life a lot lot, which is the reason why I can kind of, live
listen, man, you out there doing good work, man. Because if you change you change one person, that's more. And this ain't no shot at nobody, but I know a lot of y'all folks out there who come at my neck for always talking about capitalism, who are quote unquote woke, and y'all ain't helped nobody or did nothing for nobody. Y'all just sit around and argue about history all day online. And that's not a shot at nobody specifically, because if you know who you are, you know who you are.
Right. Let me judge just one thing before we end it though. I think this is important. I should have said it earlier. And I know it's always a hot topic, the gentrification, and about Cows Creek. Is there really gentrification if the Black folks don't want it? Right? When I put these houses on the market, when I put my rental I had 51st and Catherine in Cedar Park, I didn't have one Black person come to see it, to rent. When I put these other houses on the market for sale, I don't get Black people coming to look at these houses to purchase. The Black people I get, they want to buy uptown, right? They only want Mount Airy. They only want, they only want Winfield. They don't want to live in Cows Creek.
Well, they're gonna want it later when it's too late. That's when they're gonna want it.
But I'm just saying, is this still gentrification if the people of color don't want it? That's
all. Listen.
That's my question.
I own a property in North Philly for a while, and it used to be this lady on the block, and she'd been renting there forever. And I used to tell her, I say, why don't you buy the house? Because at one point she lived there so long that she's had multiple landlords, right?
Wow.
But when they put it up for sale, I said, why don't you buy it? Because I'm getting away from here. I ain't gonna be around these niggas all this time getting out of there. Yeah. 10 years passed, she's still there. I'm like, you could have bought. You've paid for the house multiple times already.
Yeah.
Right. But see, what happens is when someone else comes in and sees value where we don't see value, that's problematic. But man, that's a deep discussion. Let me ask you one more question too, because I generally ask this of all of our guests, right? So you went to school. Mm-hmm. In terms of the student loan crisis, what would be your advice to your kids as they're coming up about going to college? Would you tell them to go ahead to college, or what would your advice be in terms of college with the costs being where they are?
Mm-hmm. So my thing is, we combine the two things, and I don't think that they both should be combined, right? Mm-hmm. There's the college experience, and then there's the cost of college. Now, the cost of college is going to eventually come down, right? They're going to start to fail. I mean, it's just states, they're not going to keep funding these schools, everything else. The one thing that Tom Corbett, when he was the governor, I didn't agree with a lot that he did, but he stopped giving Penn State money and he didn't give Temple millions of dollars. He said, I'm not giving to you. And what he said is because all you're going to do is build rock walls. And I was like, fuck, damn. You're right. All they're going to do is make a bigger, better facility, make it look nicer, right, to attract more students, right? And so when you're talking about the experience of college, 100% I would like for my son to go to college, but I'm not going to be a person that is like, nah, you're going to college or else.
Okay.
There will be or else, but it won't be like I get out of my house. They'd be like, you have to go to college or figure something out, but you're not going to be in my basement. That's not an option. Like, you're not going to just be here not doing nothing. If you could be in the basement, but as long as you're down there building something, like I don't care what it is, but it's a business, a trinket, whatever you're building, you got to be doing something, right?
Gotcha.
But, my college experience made me who I am. Like, I was able to experiment as an entrepreneur, with a safety net under me. Like from doing the mixtapes, using my student loans. Oh, listen, I did a little flip party with my student loans. I lost $13,000 in my partner, on that party. A little flip. It was a crazy party, but it was a hell of a loss. And but I still had things to fall back on. And then, maneuvering, building relationships. There's a lot to learn in college.
Yes, it is. Outside of the classroom.
Yeah, outside of the classroom, and then relationships that I made in college, I wouldn't have got from random people, on the street. My college experience, I promise you, would be a hell of a YouTube or Netflix series. My college experience was listen, I will put my experience up against anybody. I'm talking about, from kidnappings to shootouts to drugs to
this is college.
Versus college. This is college, yo. My college experience was, international trips, building businesses, oh my God, my college experience. And so to get some of that stuff that's not just there, but the books too, though, right? I learned the importance of being on time. That's probably the most important thing I learned, in college. Like, yo, you got to be on time. Like, you got to show up.
I love your answer. And the one thing I know is we ask a lot of our guests the same question. So it reminds me of Tom, the real estate bully, right? When he talked about college, none of the good parts that he talked about had anything to do with the classroom, but he did talk about throwing parties and how that helps him as a wholesaler now. So
and listen, and for a while when I was taking business partners, if you weren't a party promoter, I didn't work with you because we know what it is to deal with rejection. Understand, I would pass out 15,000 flyers every week between driving around different stores, flyers, posters, everything else. So if I'm giving 5,000 flyers out hand to hand every week, but only 800 people come, that means I got rejected 4,200 times every week. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so you learn how to deal with rejection, whereas, other people don't. We know what it is to be out there passing out flyers in the cold. That's the grind. So I only want a party promoter as partners.
That's dope. Well, listen, man, Malik, man, we definitely appreciate your time. You dropped a lot of gems. You hit us with a story that it's a couple. I wrote a couple things down. Like, first of all, family legacy, how important that is. And the fact that your history, I'm a little jealous of that because I can't trace my family back that far. But that's fire because that goes to show that it's something that was inside of you, for one, and also you talked about like your father and what he did, and that's what you saw. So for all you people out there watching and listening that have kids, they're watching you, whether you know it or not, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing is a person that takes massive action. All of the like things that have happened to you, and you just right back up. I think that's admirable, and people can learn from that as well. Like I think one of my mentors told me one time, like, I got pissed about like cold calling. And they were like, "Did you die?" I'm like, "What you mean? You die?" I'm like, "No." Well, what are you complaining about?
Right.
And you know what I mean? So it's like, just get back at it. Action, take action. And the last thing is no fear. You said a couple times, like, if I go to zero, I'm going to get right back at it.
I was just about to say that. My man said zero is nothing.
Yeah,
like I'm right back at it. Like 0 was nothing.
Yeah, that's fire. So I think, man, that those are the things that I took away from this, man. For everybody out there, give them your IG because you give a lot of game and a lot of inspiration. Where can they follow you at on IG?
So real estate _coach _Carter. Now, my name is not real estate coach Carter because I'm a real estate coach. I'm a real estate coach Carter because when I was doing mortgages, my nickname was Coach Carter because of the movie. So I kept that.
Right? Listen. People always ask me like, where you get that JW the blueprint? Well, my name is Jimmy Williams, but I got the blueprint because at the time I was working. I had a securities license. I was working in the finance field, and one of my coworkers used to call me the blueprint, and they call me the blueprint because when I used to do work, I would write everything. I still do that. Like I write all my goals down. I'm big on writing things down. To me, it doesn't exist unless I write it down. And so they start calling me the blueprint as a joke. And when I got online, right, my name is like James Williams, was so basic. So I just found a way to, like, when I was working with SEO, I was like, I got to use my nickname. So it's tough. But anyway, so it's the reason for all that. But anyway, that goes into marketing, and marketing, that's a whole nother show. But listen, man, again, I wish you much success. And keep doing what you're doing. And I love your slogan that you say, stop buying shit. So for someone out there that's trying to get started right now, that will be your first advice, right? Stop buying shit.
Stop buying shit. I'm not trying to sign off, but let me say this one thing real quick. Sometimes the best investment a person can make instead of buying a house is to pay that credit card bill. Because if you're paying 19% on that credit card, you get a much better return by paying that shit down than you can buying a house and getting like 14, 15, 16% returns you have money into. That's it. That's my last thing.
Super facts, man. Super facts. Listen, for those out there listening, man, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, share this podcast, hit the like button. We're going to continue to tell these stories of Black people who are doing great work in the community, building great businesses, or this is nothing but positivity that we share here by the hood. We want to say that we appreciate all our supporters. Leave us some feedback and make sure that you go follow follow Malik on Instagram and follow his journey as he continues to do what he does. As we always say, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. And, we'll see you chumps on top.